revelation in an equitable manner. So Chiti, this is the Ghana School of Internet Governance, the 6th edition, and then we are ready to have your presentation. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really looking forward to learning and sharing all of our experiences around digital rights in our region and in our spheres of work. So I'm just trying to share the screen for my presentation. Okay, let me just get that going. Okay, so I'll just ask someone to confirm that you can see my screen.
All right, Chiti, we can see your
I'm not
screen.
sure if you can hear me. Can you see my screen?
Yes, please, we can.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Okay. So let's get into it. As I mentioned, my name is Mbizule Mutati. I am the Southern Africa Programs Officer at Paradigm Initiative based in Lusaka, Zambia. And so my role at PIN, as we fondly call it, I work with CSOs in the region and citizens, kind of advancing our digital rights and digital inclusion work. We do digital rights academies. We conduct policy engagements. We provide opinions on policies and work with governments as well to influence policies for the betterment of our societies and for the betterment of our region. So I've put my contact information below. I'm happy to connect after the conversation. So let's get into it. And I'll start with a statement or a question, depending how you feel about it, right? So the concept, the statement is digital rights are human rights, right? And yeah, so I'd just like to get us started with this session by thinking about what we believe about the concept of digital rights personally. So where do we place them when we're thinking about our other inalienable rights? What value do we place on them for ourselves? And then what value do we place on them for others? So my belief is that digital rights are human rights in our interactions in the digital context, right? So in our interactions in the digital sphere. So I don't view them as separate from our rights. I think that they overlap with so many other rights that we have and that we had even before the internet became this phenomenon, right? That we can't live without. And so although the term digital rights is one which has really only started to gain traction in the last decade, for example, whereas human rights have been around really as far back and as the foundation of the development of functioning democratic societies and democratic countries, sorry. So when we're talking human rights, obviously we talk about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And the thought process now for us as practitioners is how do our human rights manifest in the digital space, right? How do our human rights still take priority in everything that we're doing digitally? And so how do we prioritize these digital rights? And then a more important question is, how do we then ensure that our governments, as well as big tech, are prioritizing them too? So, yeah. So when we talk why digital rights matter, right? Why do whole organizations like Paradigm Initiative exist? Why do we do the work we do? Why are we so passionate about it? If you think about what our lives look like right now, since the onset of technologies, think of your morning routine, for example. Some of us were woken up by our alarm clock, which is obviously on our phones. Some of us are still very tired because we stayed up very late last night watching that Netflix or Prime series that we're now addicted to. Some of us did our morning devotion using a Bible app, which is on our phones or on our tablets. Some of us went walking or exercising, and we tracked our exercise using a smartwatch or using an app on our phones. So you see where I'm going with this. Just in this short space of hours since we woke up, we have lived so much of our lives online, right? And it only gets more so as the days go on. But what happens with that, right? What has been the impact of that? I'd say that the impact has been that we are opening ourselves up so much more through technology, right? We're sharing our data with people. We're sharing our locations. We're sharing our views and opinions. We're sharing our interests with advertisers, with companies. We're opened up to people who want to keep track of us, right? For example, some of our governments who have begun to apply surveillance technologies and rely very heavily on these as they focus or in their aims to consolidate power or to stay in power or eliminate what they may view as political threats, right? We see this a lot more and more in the world and in our region, and even in some of our countries. And so this is particularly challenging, right? Especially if you look at issues around censorship, right? The ways in which technology and regulation are being used in some countries to actually censor what people say. And more concerning it is for us, especially when digital technologies are playing an increasingly important role in how we engage with democratic processes, such as voting, such as making a decision between candidates, such as advocating for certain candidates or certain policies. And so they're becoming so integral to these critical elements of our democracies. And so these are just some of the reasons why digital rights are so important, why more and more we need to be discussing them and engaging with them, because, you know, if they aren't understood by citizens, then they won't be recognized or they won't be as respected by governments and other people in the digital ecosystem. And the result of that is it leaves us wide open to exploitation by big tech, governments, and even exploitation by one another, as we're seeing more and more now. And so the crucial thing for us is that our digital rights matter. They apply offline or online, whether we're connected to the internet or not. So, giving the basis of where we find our digital rights, where are they enshrined? As I mentioned earlier, digital rights, I believe, and it's a very common school of thought, are our human rights. But obviously, our human rights came a lot earlier. Actually, I think the most noted form of a move towards the recognition of human rights was after World War II. And so where have we gone since then, right? So we've got the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which outlines for us the right to privacy, the right to freedom of opinion and freedom of expression, the rights for us to associate freely and assemble freely, and the right to take part in community life. At the regional level, we also have the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, Declaration of Principles on Freedom of Expression and Access to Information. And again here, the same principles are outlined. Sorry, I'll just move this. I'm not sure if it's... Yeah, the same principles are outlined for us. Privacy, freedom of expression, the right not to be surveilled, the right for transparency. And so these are principles where digital rights have been enshrined at the global level and at the regional level. And then also at the national level, a lot of our countries have constitutions. I know Ghana, I've put an excerpt of the Ghanaian constitution. again, the same principles are there: freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of the media, which is a critical one, freedom of thought, freedom of assembly, freedom of association. And these are our rights, right? They apply to us without exception, and they can't be taken away, except they can be suspended. And the people who are able to do this are our governments, right? And this is when they can prove that there's a legal and necessary and proportionate reason to do so. So let's get into that. What has been the positives of the internet, right? I think we can all agree that when we think about what the internet has done and what digital transformation has done, there have been very, very positive developments. We've been able to sit, for example, I'm sitting here in Zambia, you're sitting in Ghana, and I'm sharing ideas with you. I'm able to speak freely. I'll be able to hear your ideas and speak freely. Distance education, when you think about the COVID pandemic, the way in which so many countries were able to completely go from physical lessons and switch and start learning online, so that schooling was not so significantly disrupted. We've had the ability to get mass amounts of information, which before we were not as easily accessible. As consumers, as citizens, we now have the ability to compare things. We can compare prices, we can compare products, and all that is using the internet. We're able to communicate. We're able to, as globalization has taken hold, we're able to communicate with one another and keep those bonds, going. But of course, there has been kind of what is termed as the dark side of the internet, right? We've seen the rise in the amount of information that's online that is, categorized as false news. We've seen the rising instances of abuse and harassment through technology, right? So abuse of women online, abuse of children. We've seen the societal harms that have developed. We've seen the challenges that have arisen around the more access to internet that people have received and the more access to devices. We're seeing, the impacts on societies through, for example, gambling, which has, online gambling, which has really taken root, particularly in Africa. We've seen addiction to video gaming, addiction to technology, addiction to devices. All of these have played a role in harming the fabrics of our societies in many countries. We've also seen cybersecurity threats and crimes, fraudulent activities. With the rise of mobile money, for example, it did immense work for financial inclusion. But obviously, because the digital awareness and the digital education side of it has lagged behind, we've also seen the rise of a number of crimes, such as, mobile money fraud, which has been taking place. Using a case of Botswana, for example, we have stories about people who have lost their entire pensions using mobile money scams, for example. We've also seen the rise in surveillance, as I alluded to earlier, right? Surveillance from governments has been a very, very concerning one, especially as they've adopted more and more of these technologies without our knowledge. And they are being used as we are using these technologies. So if we look at the African digital rights landscape, right? So taking the year under review, taking 2024 up until now, what have we seen? So in terms of internet shutdowns, we know that 2024 was actually the worst year on record in terms of internet shutdowns. We saw at least 283 internet shutdowns in 39 countries. And this is an increase from the 201 shutdowns which took place in 40 countries in 2023. We're also seeing this tension, right, between national security. The tension between national security and our rights to privacy and to freedom of expression. So, for example, in Uganda, we know that the government has been employing CCTV surveillance technology, which it procured from Huawei to help control crime, the crime challenges in the country, right? That's the reason that they've given. And so it's a legitimate aim, expressed, but what have been the impacts of it on ordinary people? What else have these surveillance technologies picked up about people outside of that crime area? What have been the guardrails there? These are all questions and discussions and information that the public is not privy to. And the surveillance issue is really huge. It's a number of governments, Morocco, Botswana, Zambia, Ghana as well. They're reportedly also using these systems to surveil, right? And again, these are all stated in the under the guise of national security, right? And so even the issue of a lack of transparency, which is very concerning, particularly as more and more governments are pursuing these digital transformation journeys. We've seen the issue of fake news, as I mentioned earlier, and the impact that disinformation and misinformation has had in Africa. And interestingly, we're also seeing new approaches that governments are taking in order to curb this misinformation and disinformation scourge that is happening. So in Malawi, for example, the regulator there has actually procured what it is calling a misinformation software. Interestingly enough, it was actually procured from a Ghanaian software company. And so it has now reportedly implemented this on its social media platforms, right? And so the question there is, are there risks of mass surveillance of people, right, as they use social media? And what will be the impacts on people's freedom of speech or ability to actually go online and express their concerns or express their criticisms, particularly concerning for Malawi, because they're heading to a national election this year. But positively, we've also seen social media, and digital platforms having a very positive impact, right? So we've seen it empowering the youth and empowering these youth-driven movements. For example, in Kenya, the Gen Z movement, which is actually ongoing right now. Young people are mobilizing through social media in an organized way, and it's enabling them to protest elements of their country's leadership which they're not happy with. We also saw a lot more people come online, right, through the expansion of networks and really concerted efforts by governments and private vendors to lower the costs of connectivity. And so, what has this done for small businesses? What has this done for youth-led SMEs, for digital literacy, and for the ability of students to really learn online and improve their lives? So, with that overview, I want to actually look at 3 areas more in detail. And so these will be data privacy, freedom of expression, and then surveillance. So under data privacy and privacy in general, we've already established that your right to have the protection of your data is enshrined, right? Your right to privacy is enshrined. However, this is an area that many African countries are still grappling with. For example, in Africa, only 36 of our African countries have data protection laws, right? And even with those who do, in a number of those, the implementation has been very, very weak and very much lacking. And this is attributed to, factors such as very low levels of oversight capacity for the authorities, limited resources provided to these data protection commissioners. And the result of that, obviously, is that people's data is still being open. It's still being left open and without protections, right? and it's still, open to being grossly misused, either by governments, even by social media platforms, and even by corporations. The second is freedom of expression. And so, freedom of expression is, it's very widely accepted and recognized as a key tenet or a key foundation of a well-functioning democracy. So if you want to judge how well a democratic country is actually functioning, you can just look at how easily and how freely its citizens can critique or criticize government or functions or services without receiving backlash. And more in the region, we're seeing governments take a very, very harsh stance on people expressing themselves online. The arrests of journalists and political opposition, and even ordinary citizens have really ramped up. And, you have to think about this in terms of what is the impact of this, right? So what is the impact on people who use social media platforms as a place to assemble, right? A place to coalesce. So activists, for example, or politicians, for example, what does this do to democracy? And so, but at the same time, you also have to look at how are our laws supporting or actually dismantling this right to freedom of expression. And it's an issue that we're still struggling to deal with, I think, in a balanced way, right? Because we are also seeing the kind of the challenges that people, the challenges of people misusing their rights to freedom of speech, right? Again, we go back to, things like fake news, things like attacks of people being attacked online. And so it brings us back to this kind of tension or the question of, my right ends where your right begins, right? In terms of how I can use my freedom of expression. And then the third area that I wanted to hone in on was around surveillance as surveillance and interception. And so, as I mentioned earlier, surveillance is really, really on the rise on the continent. Governments are allocating more and more of their defense budgets and their spending budgets to the procurement of surveillance technologies from different parts of the world, China, Israel, the United States, for example. And on the main, these procurements are being done and surveillance technologies are being implemented under the guise of national security, right? National security concerns. And so what this has also meant is that the procurement processes and the decisions that are made, the amounts that are spent, are conducted in very opaque ways, right? So there's little oversight, there's little transparency, and there's little accountability to us as the citizens around where are these technologies coming from? What do they do? What is their aim? What information are they collecting about us? And where is that information going? What is being done with it? How is it being secured? And yeah, we're kind of in this gray area where we know or there's very strong evidence that surveillance technologies are being used in our countries, but we don't get that information. Also being told it's for our national security, and so it's a very tricky one right now. So I think you can't discuss these kind of topics without looking at regulation, right? And I think one of the really topical legislations right now, and one of the areas where governments are really having to walk a tightrope is cyber legislation, right? So this tightrope between the responsibility of governments to protect our cyberspaces, right? To protect us from crimes, and to protect us from having our rights violated. as we move more and more of our lives onto digital platforms, right? Versus the need for these cyber legislations not to infringe on our rights, right? Our rights to privacy, freedom of expression, association, etc. And so the picture that's on the screen right now has become really, really symbolic of the case of the journey towards cyber legislation in Zambia, right? So to give you some backstory, Zambia has had a cyber legislation in place since 2021. And this was called the Cybersecurity and Cybercrimes Act of 2021. And so what happened then is a few months after this act was passed, a new government came into power and pledged to repeal that law because there were a number of provisions within it that were found to not be rights respecting and were found to actually put citizens at great risk. And so, sure enough, the government repealed this law and actually split it into two separate bills. So these became the Cybersecurity Bill of 2024 and the Cybercrimes Bill of 2024. And so when these new bills were released, lo and behold, they also faced significant backlash, right? And this was because although there were very, very positive provisions, were very positive provisions in the bills, things focused on much stronger regulation around child online tech facilitated child abuse, stronger penalties for that. Much more enhanced inward-looking national security provisions, which people had been arguing for years that those were very much lacking. The downside of these laws and issues that people were still very much concerned about were issues such as provisions in there which allowed for example, mass surveillance, right? Putting at risk key functions of, again, I mentioned a democratic society, right? So under the provisions, the way they were written and quite vaguely worded, some vague definitions as well, it left open questions of, for example, could a journalist end up being surveilled? Or a whistleblower, for example, could they have their protection stripped from them because of this act, right? And so there were also questions around the ability of law enforcement officers to confiscate people's digital devices with, effectively very little paper trail, very little transparency around the process. Another big concern was that the authority which was to be established to actually basically govern this law, it is set up and selected by the office of the president. So that obviously was now raising issues around, the level of independence and how objective this body could really be, this watchdog could really be. And so this picture is actually of our opposition leaders, and they went into parliament on the day of voting with, you can see masking tape on their mouth. And it has become quite symbolic of, the backlash and the concerns that people had. But ultimately, the bills were passed, and they're now law in the country. And so we're all watching very carefully as civil society, as citizens. We're watching very carefully to see, how will these laws be enforced, especially as Zambia is heading into a general election next year, right? But these kind of laws, certainly, they raise issues around, this kind of dichotomy between legislation and, its impact in practice, right? In real life, how it's actually enacted and employed, right? The risks to the shrinking of civic spaces, whether these laws are actually advancing some interests at the expense of others, and also whether these laws are actually progressing, right? Are they contributing to closing the knowledge gap, or are they actually, widening the knowledge gap? So this is a very topical issue, and it's not just Zambia. Lesotho, for example, will be developing its cyber law. There are a number of countries where cyber legislation is just one area where there's a very big push and pull between, the need to protect citizens, but also the need not to, infringe on their rights and put them at risk. Yeah, so I will just take you through, sometimes after seeing a presentation like this, I think we can find ourselves asking, what can I do, right? What is my role, or how can I work on digital rights in my country, in the region? So I'll just take you through a few of Paradigm initiatives, and we can, chat about those after in the question time. So the first thing I'd like to introduce you to is our Digital Rights and Digital Inclusion Report. It's called Londa. And so let's just, okay, I have it here actually. So this is our Londa report, and the most recent version is our 2024 version. And we have, okay, here it is. So the link I've put on the presentation takes you to our Londa page, where it dates back as far as 2022, and you can use it to just chart your country's digital rights and digital inclusion journey over the years. So Ghana is actually in Londa for this year. And so I'd really greatly encourage you as a first step to download the report and just go through it. And it gives a very, very good overview and understanding of the state of digital rights in the region and in specific countries. The second tool that I'd like to show you is Ayeta, which is actually our digital security toolkit, which was developed by Paradigm Initiative with a focus on ensuring that digital users have all the necessary protections that they need, right? So I'm sure you remember, or perhaps not, but I'm sure you've read various stories about countries that have done internet shutdowns, right? And how people were able to immediately switch to VPNs, for example, in order to stay online and stay connected and stay informed. And so that's just some of the information that our toolkit offers, some of the information our toolkit provides, but it's really just a good first place to do a self-assessment of your digital security. It's in English and French and a number of African countries. And it just provides a very good resource for ensuring that you are protecting yourself online, especially people who do work, in the public interest, for example, journalists. And then the second intervention that I'd like to introduce you to is Reporti, which is actually our digital rights reporting platform. And so basically, this is so this is how Reporti looks, and it's basically a repository of information. It's a one-stop shop where you can come and report any digital rights violation that you have witnessed or know of in your country. And so it's a very easy to use page, and your report comes directly to Paradigm Initiative, upon which we will act on it and get in touch with you and take your matter further. So now that I've told you about those three ways that you can inform yourself, protect yourself, and report any concerns that you see, I'd also like to talk a little bit about kind of what advocacy work that one can do. I think, leaning on the Zambia example, once again, the cyber legislation, when all the backlash occurred around the government introducing the act, one of the things which the government came out and said, and which we struggled to argue back as a citizenry, is that the bill was open for public comment and stakeholder engagement. And they say we didn't go, right? As citizens, not enough of us went. And so, this raises different questions around, did enough people know about the bill, right? Was it widely publicized? But also, were enough people interested at the time, right? And so you can ask those two questions. But either way, it speaks to the role that awareness plays, right? So the role of civil society in flagging these issues, the role of us as citizens in staying alert and staying focused and noticing or following, tracking these laws which our governments are trying to put in place, asking questions about them, raising our concerns. And raising our concerns about them. So we are kind of the first line of defense, right? Before a bill like this can go and be put into and be enacted, right? Where are we in this? Where is our criticism? A lot of people don't know that you can just go and stop by your regulator's office, and say, I have these questions. Can someone sit and explain to me? They're not these places in the sky which we can't go to. They are out. They represent us, and we should be able to go there and ask questions. The other area that we can really, really advance the cause of digital rights in the region is, if you see something, say something. So that's where, again, the platform I showed you, Reporty, that's where a platform like that is so critical, right? You see a digital rights violation, know that there is a place you can come and report it so that someone can pick it up and we can work towards addressing it. And yeah, let's really take an interest in, understanding what are other countries doing, right? What are the gold standards that we are happy about seeing? And so when our government send out requests for feedback on certain bills, or we can then send those through and share our views about what we feel is best. So yeah, with that, I'll leave us with some final thoughts, right? Around, again, this, why are digital rights important to us, right? Where do they come into our ordinary lives? Where do we rely on our digital rights in our day-to-day lives? What are some of the digital rights violations currently ongoing in Ghana, for example? And then what is our role in advancing human rights in our country's digital rights arena? How can we work together? How can we come together to actually promote digital rights in our countries? So I'll stop there. I think there are some minutes for questions. I'll stop there if anyone has anything that they'd like to ask or share. And yeah, we can get the conversation going.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so we have questions for you.
Thank you very much, Madam, for such an enlightening presentation. I have two questions that I want to ask. The first one is that, at what point will you say that surveillance and interception can be of benefit to national security in protecting the borders of a particular nation? And the second one is that, does digital rights necessarily seek to allow everyone to conduct themselves however they want online? Thank you.
Should I also ask?
Okay. Should other questions come, or you would respond as and when? Which one works for you?
I can respond as and when, because my brain isn't so big to remember everything.
All right.
Yeah, so Look, as I said, this issue of surveillance and interception, it's a very tense one, right? Because I think one thing that we really can't get away from, and that we all agree about, is that the world is an increasingly dangerous place from when we, were all growing up, right? If you think of, for me, I always think of one incident that really changed the perception I have of the world and the way I view the world is the attacks on the Twin Towers, right? 9/11. I always remember the first time I ever went in an aeroplane. The pilots invited us into the cockpit, and we were actually able to stand in the cockpit, and he showed us all the buttons. And I remember this actually happened while we were flying, right? Ever since 9/11, the one thing I know about airplanes now is that the pilot, once he's in that cockpit, he does not leave, right? He remains in the cockpit and no one goes in there, right? And so, it's just a little example to show how much the world has changed and how much threat exists in the world, right? Obviously, terrorism is a very big threat. We know that organized crime is a very big threat. The syndicates around, the exploitation of women and children, trafficking of women and children. So the one thing I think we can't get away from is that we have dangers, and we also can't get away from knowing that our government's role, one of our government's main roles, is to keep us safe. Now, a lot of them are now leaning towards surveillance technologies, and these technologies have become so sophisticated, right? But what have these surveillance technologies allowed for? They've allowed for governments to track terrorists. They've allowed for governments to break up syndicates, crime syndicates. They've allowed for governments to, sorry, my video is acting up. Yeah, they've allowed for governments to keep their citizens safe from legitimate threats. But what we also have to acknowledge we can't get away from is that national security has now become this term that some can argue very deliberately loose in terms of defining it, right? And they're now being able to rely on just these words. Oh, this was done in the interest of national security. Very little accountability, very little information provided back to the people. What national security threat was it? What were the issues that you were using these technologies to, on the people for? Have ordinary people been caught up in these technologies? What are the risks of that, right? And so to answer your question after that really long introduction, I think at the point, it's very hard to pinpoint, right, at what specific point surveillance technologies will be beneficial. I think what I would say is that there is very clear evidence that some surveillance technologies have been very crucial, right, in the interest of protecting us from very legitimate threats. The risk now that we have is that more and more governments have become too comfortable relying on the word national security in order to simply allow for the surveillance of even sometimes their political enemies, or the surveillance of journalists who are breaking certain stories, the surveillance of civil rights organizations who are simply putting up a resistance to elements of governmental rule which are not acceptable, which are not good for the people. And so I think we need to delve more into that around, what are the benefits? What are the actual benefits? But are the risks now beginning to outweigh those benefits? And do we need to now put in place some regulations? Do we need to now put in place some guardrails around how these surveillance technologies are deployed in our countries? And then I don't know that I caught your second question very well, but were you saying, does digital rights simply allow us to do any actions that we want online?
Yes, please.
Okay, so for that, I go back to the point I raised right earlier, which was that for me, my belief is that my digital right ends where your digital right begins, right? So I have the right to go online and post whatever I want, right? It's my social media, it's my right. But you have the right to your privacy. So meaning I can't go online and post your home address, for example, and then say, no, I was exercising my right to freedom of speech, or I was exercising my right to be free online. And so I think that's a very good marker for when you are trying to work out. Oh, so the simple answer to that is no. Digital rights, we're not saying that anyone should just be able to go online and do whatever they want. I think more and more, we're all recognizing that we do need some sort of regulation. We do need some kinds of guide rails around how we are using the internet, right? This approach that social media platforms are taking, where they are essentially leaving the people's regulation of social media and the content they post to themselves, it is not a safe approach. But at the same time, it needs to be done in such a way that each person's rights are still being protected, and that regulation also needs to be done in such a way that we are not taking away from the vital elements of digital life. I hope that answers your question, and yeah, happy to move to the next one.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Sadiq. So please, I want to ask, what are how realistic is the fact-checking method and fact-checking systems that people have been deploying? And also, like I do see foundations coming out trying to act like they want to fact-check people's, then help in maybe the fake news and other issues like that. But in a scenario, let's say there was a top government contract that was going on, and someone in that meeting leaked something to me as a journalist to post on my social media. Because of the sensitive nature of it, it's not available to any other person but from that source. And I would also want to disclose my source. But an organization came out without having access to the database of where I got my information, declare my statement fake news, which maybe at the end I'm taking through all the legal steps because I've published fake news. But maybe in 2 years, 3 years later, it comes up that that database is now accessible, and what I've said has been processed through the fact check system, and it's now proving that I was telling the truth. So how do we, is misinformation and disinformation not a human problem, or is what's the name, a system problem? Because mostly we are always looking at it from the technology part. Social media is the one maybe spreading the fake news. But how many of us are willing to, when your child asks you, your 7-year-old asks you, "Mommy, what is sex?" How do we answer it? Do we usually tell them the truth? So is it a human issue, or we should always be blaming technology? Thank you.
Thank you, Sadiq. That's a very, very interesting observation, and I'm inclined to agree with you. I think only focusing on technology, right, as the conduit for this fake news, as we have termed it, misses a very, very critical issue, right? Which is, again, I go to our responsibilities, which are explicitly tied to the rights that we have, right? The rights that we are given within the digital space. So I'll go to your first point about how realistic is fact checking. So, okay, if we take, for example, the COVID-19 pandemic, right? I think that is one example. When we look back now, it's one example of, just how what's the word I'm looking for? How, I want to say deadly, how deadly the risk of or the impact of misinformation and disinformation could be, right? And this is regardless of which side you stood on the issue. Even if you take the vaccine discussion, for example, there was so much misinformation and disinformation on either side of that argument. And when you now look back on it, how many people relied on that information? When you think about your grandmother, for example, back home, who would send you these WhatsApp messages, or who, when you talk to her on the phone, checking on her, she's telling you all sorts of information about COVID-19, which you know is not true, right? People were saying, no, you have to drink this, don't go to the hospital, things like that. And so I think that really, it just drove home how much of a risk misinformation and disinformation are to our societies, right? To our health, to our mental well-being, to the decisions we make, to the way we vote, to even the products that we buy, right? Misinformation and disinformation is so impactful. And so if you ask about how realistic is fact-checking, I think in anything, there's no way of 100% saying this is a foolproof solution, right? But I think the aim of fact-checking, at least, was to be able to put in place a first line of defense, right, to information that is grossly untrue or misleading or puts people at risk, right? And I think this is where even the use of AI became quite quite a very good use case, right? The integration of AI into fact checking programs, right? Where almost immediately, where it was very clear that there was an opposing source of information, and it was from an official source, it was able to be flagged and attached to that post, for example. Now, there were much more challenging forms of misinformation where it wasn't as easy as AI would be able to just immediately say this is false because see this link to the official information. For example, there were some issues that were a lot more nuanced, which needed a lot more time, and an opposing view needed to be formed. And so then we now leaned into issues around how long fact-checking actually takes, right? However, I still believe that for all the issues that it has, right? So it being slow, there also being an element of it where it could be viewed as subjective. Fact-checking still forms a very critical element and a very useful element of how we do social life online. And then I think your second observation was around doing work in the public interest, right? So a journalist publishing a story which comes from a specific source. That's a very tough one. And so I think where I would take it back to is why it is so important to have very, very strong regulation and very well enforced regulation for media freedoms, right? So regulations that protect journalists, but also hold them accountable, right? So again, I go back to the point I've been making about your right and your responsibility that is directly attached to it. Regulation, a good court system, right? So a strengthened legal system, because in a strengthened legal system, you, as a journalist, if you've been arrested for publishing this story, the burden of proof falls on the person who is accusing you, right? So they need to, if they have accused you of publishing this story and they say it's fake, the burden of proof then falls on them to provide the information that shows that this information is fake. I hope that gets us somewhere.
Yeah, we'll manage it for now.
All right, next question. Okay, just go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. I want to know if you believe online platforms should be regulated, to protect from online harassment and abuse, and to also provide clear accountability.
Okay. Maybe I can take another, then
Yes. Next.
then I'll answer.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chida, for the wonderful insight given us this morning. My name is Ezra, and then my question is, I want to know if affordable internet access is something everyone should have as a digital right. If yes, tell us the reasons, and then if no, you let us know the reasons. Thank you.
Hi, Chiti. Should we add more, or you will take these two?
Okay, I'll take these two.
All right.
So the first was whether online platforms should be regulated. I think absolutely, right? I think the question, it's about any society, right? There's no society that exists without there being some form of regulation to guide how we live in that society. And if you take the view that social media has become a society of itself, right? Think about the number of friends you have on social media, right? You log on to your Twitter, you know that, oh, I'm going to check on this person and hear what they have to say, or I'm going to make friends with this person. Social media has become its own form of society. We go on there to learn. We go on there to be informed. We go on there to discuss. We go on there to meet. That is a form of society in itself. And so, the fact that it's digital, right, and it's not this physical thing that we can touch, doesn't take away the fact that we do need to have some guidelines in there for how we relate with each other. So to that extent, I absolutely believe that online platforms should be regulated. I think the question then, and the question that we are all, thinking about and grappling with, is how should it be regulated, right? And in this regulation, what is the responsibility of all of the stakeholders, right? So the government, the social media platform, us as citizens, right? What are our individual responsibilities within that society that we have built as social media? And governments are taking very different approaches, right? We've seen in Uganda, social media is banned, right? We've seen in America, basically, despite all these hearings that they do, and people are free to say whatever they want. We know that, or do whatever they want. We know that earlier this year, Facebook, Meta, actually came out and said that they are stopping their content moderation program, right? And they are putting content moderation in the hands of the people. That is a very dangerous approach to take, right? So I think, yes, online platforms should be regulated, but they should not be stifled. We should all understand what our various responsibilities are. What is Instagram's responsibility to me if I am being sent harassing messages, right? Should they be able to just say, oh, that's your business and, go and deal with it on your own? What is a government's responsibility to me if I'm using a social media platform, right? Should they just be able to review what I've tweeted and based on that start surveilling me, right? What is my responsibility on social media? Am I allowed to just wake up and go and write on someone's status, I don't like your shoes, that kind of thing. So we need regulation. We just don't need stifling. But regulation and our responsibilities are very required for us to ensure that social media still remains a place for development and for positive growth. And then the second one is affordable internet access, something people should have as a right. Absolutely. You will remember that at the beginning of my presentation, right? I talked about what have been the benefits of social media, not social media, of the internet and of the digital world, right? People have access to information about many things. For example, in Zambia, I know that whenever we have a cholera outbreak, the first place that the government gives us this information is through our cell phones, right? And it extends even beyond that. People are learning on social media. People are running businesses using social media. And so on the basis of that, if it's not a digital right that each person has the right to be included, what happens is that the marginalized are not getting the benefits of the internet, right? They're not getting the benefits of the digital world. A lot of our countries are now on digital transformation journeys, right? And so if access is not granted to every person, are we all benefiting from that digital transformation equally? Or are some of us being left behind? Is the digital divide just widening? So on that one, I would say it absolutely is a right.
Okay, thank you. Next question. All right.
Okay, my name is Christabel. So this is more of a personal experience. In your presentation, you made mention that national security outweighs our right to privacy. And at another point in your slide, I saw that our biometric data had some risks associated with it, especially during elections. So personally, I have issues with how biometric data is collected in this country, because I don't understand why every national ID card that I need, they have to take my biometrics all over again. And even they capture your biometrics for one card. After some years, they tell you we have to do that same card again, and they have to capture your details all over again. So in this case, from your view, at what point do we have to balance the digital rights of citizens with the national security goals of the country?
Okay, Chidi, do you want to take it or you want to add another question?
You can add another.
All right, next question. Yeah.
Okay, good morning. I'm Chris. Okay, this is a more practical question I want to ask. You know, whenever we have this public Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi, people can pick trotro more than 7 miles just to go and access this public Wi-Fi because it's free. I've seen a lot. When we go to the senior high schools to go educate, there's a very common there. Now, my question here is, how can individuals in Ghana, especially our senior high school students, protect their digital right when using public Wi-Fi or sharing personal information online, especially with limited or no knowledge at all in terms of cyber security? Thank you.
Thank you, Christabel, and thank you. Okay, so I'll tackle the one about my slides. So, my point there, I was not saying that national security outweighs our privacy, our right to privacy, as in I agree with it. What I was saying is that the moves that governments have been making recently, they are essentially prioritizing national security over our rights to privacy, right? And again, it goes back to the point I was making, that there is this tension, which is just increasing between governments saying that they are pursuing national security aims, and then the resultant impact on our rights, right? And so I think, again, my point here would be around the advocacy, right? It shouldn't be acceptable that our biometric data is consistently being taken. And, even information around what is it being used for, where's the transparency around that? But again, this calls for civic action, right? How many of us actually ask when we go to renew an ID document, why are you taking this? Or I know sometimes, this is Africa, so you ask the person at the till, why are you taking my fingerprint? You probably won't get a nice answer. But as I mentioned to you earlier, did you know that you can write to your telecoms regulator, right? And say, I'd like an explanation. Why is this the case? You can go to them and say, I'd like an explanation. Why is this the case? Where is our fingerprint data being taken? Where is it being stored? but it's really around us taking that agency for ourselves. There is no circumstance where national security should be able to override your right to privacy, unless you are legitimately in the commission of a crime, etc. But ordinary citizens, that is not a reality that we should accept. And then the second question was about practical ways of protecting ourselves. So if you'll recall, I did share to you, I did show you our digital security toolkit called Ayeta. And again, I would really encourage you to access it. I'll share my slides after the presentation. But on there, it gives very practical tips. So for example, I heard you saying, you use public Wi-Fi. Did you know that when you use public Wi-Fi, you shouldn't log into your banking app, for example? You shouldn't log into your mobile money. You shouldn't log into any app where you have banking information, because hackers are then easily able to use that Wi-Fi to then enter into your those financial services linked apps, right? Another example is a lot of governments now, not governments, a lot of restaurants now, right, are using QR codes instead of a menu. But did you know that even there, someone who's doing, someone looking to do cyber crimes, they're printing. There have been cases where they are literally printing similar barcodes, putting them on the tables, and you go and scan it, thinking it's the menu of the restaurant, and they now have access to your phone. And so it's little things like that, right? Where if you don't have that information, you will just become a victim to those. But the resources are available. I really urge you to go to the Paradigm Initiative Ayeta Digital Security Toolkit and just, read through and find out what are the current tips right now. How can we protect ourselves from cyber crimes? Because these guys are only getting smarter, and so we also need to get smarter. We need to find the information and get smarter.
Okay. So any other question?
Yes. So thank you. My name is Ola Bimpe. Earlier on, you mentioned that yes, we need regulatory bodies or we need regulations for social media platforms. Could you please mention some of these, if there are any, or if there is any, some of these regulatory bodies we have at the moment that one can report to? Because yes, I know social media platforms have that feature of you making reports of abuses on social medias. But at times, we don't get responses, most especially in Africa. You make reports and nothing happens. So are there regulatory bodies that you can report to and instantly you get justice?
Okay. Should we add another?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, so should I go on?
Okay, so thank you so much for the insightful presentation. So I would like to ask, I want to know, what advice would you give to student activists who want to speak online but are afraid of backlash and surveillance?
Okay. So Chiti, should we add another?
Sure.
Or?
Okay. Yeah, you can add another.
Okay.
Yes, so my name is Yusuf, and my question is, do you agree that online businesses should be taxed? Because the last time I was searching through and I could see that the GRA is trying to implement these tax forms on online businesses. So what's your take on it? It could be a personal opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll tackle the issue of regulation of social media. One of the main challenges, right, is differences in applications of regulations, right? So, for example, as I said, you look at the United States, where there are regulations put in place, but essentially the government has really taken a hands-off approach of social media, right? In terms of laws around content moderation and fake news, etc. You look at, for example, Uganda, which I mentioned, where the government there has just said, we're not going to deal with it, it's banned. You look at Brazil, for example, again, where just last week, the Supreme Court actually ruled that social media platforms cannot just say, oh, we have no responsibility for content moderation, that is between the users, right? They said, no, you have a responsibility to users to make social media a safe place and for accountability. So we're seeing very different applications of regulations. And so then it also follows that there is no one regulatory body that one can report to. But I take you back to what I said about Reporty, the platform I introduced you to. And it's not the only one. There are a number of platforms in the region. Of course, I would want you to use Reporty because I can vouch for it. I know how good we are at monitoring digital rights violations and assisting people. So for me, I would say that's the place to go to. Don't just rely on the social media platform, which, as you said, sometimes they don't even respond or they don't even do anything to you. Record your report on Reporty. Get in touch with us and say, this is the issue I'm facing, right? Send us the evidence of it and get assistance in that way. Let us let's really look to resolving these issues using the platforms which are actually available and are actually active. And then the question about what I would advise a student activist. This is a very difficult one, right? Because it also touches on the work that I do at Paradigm Initiative, the work that we do, right? We are activists as well. And the stance that we have taken is that we will speak truth to power, right? But I think that especially in the climate we live in now, no one can tell you to speak truth to power at the expense of your safety and at the expense of your peace of mind, right? And so I would say that if you have these concerns about will I be surveilled, or if you live in a country where that is a concern to you, the first thing that I would advise is around awareness, right? So actually have knowledge of your laws, actually have knowledge of your rights under your laws, right? And then actively work towards ensuring that any work that you are doing or any criticism that you are doing, you are still protected by your laws. So again, as I said to you, a number of our countries have laws about the spreading of false news, right? So then you know that you can't go and share a story which you do not know to be true, right? You have no evidence of it being true because you are opening yourself up to that risk. But yeah, I think it's a very personal, the fight for rights in any country, in any work that we do, it's also a very personal conviction. But at the very basis of it, have a knowledge of what your rights are under the law, and then what your responsibilities are under the law to ensure that you don't fall foul of them. And that should a government then be, retaliate against you in a way that's infringing your rights, you will be on the right side of the issue. Again, I take you back to Reporty as well. And I say this to anyone who's engaged in this kind of work. Use us as your point of call. Any challenge or a concern, particularly around your digital rights being infringed, report it on Reporty and make it known to us. And then was there one last? Oh yes, the last question was around the taxing of online businesses. So I can answer this yes, in my personal opinion. I've been tracking it for a number of years, right? As more and more governments are, their budgets are being squeezed, right? They're looking for new sources of revenue. And obviously, the online space is now a very lucrative space. People are making money in very different ways. We've got influencers now who make more money than people who are doing normal 9-to-5s, right? We've got the rise in e-commerce. And so it's naturally going to be a place where governments start looking as a way to widen their tax bases. My personal opinion on this is that I think it depends on what kind of business it is, or the size of the business, for example. And what I mean when I say that is, let's say, I don't know if the equivalent of Amazon in Ghana, right? I believe a corporation like that should, pay some sort of tax. But a small business, right? A company that is earning, below a certain threshold, I don't believe that is encouraging entrepreneurship. I don't believe it is encouraging economic growth to then go and put taxes on a small business that is still establishing itself. So for me, I think the approach I would take to this, or the approach I would encourage a government to take towards this, is threshold taxing, right? So if your revenues, your annual turnover is below a certain amount, I don't think a government has any business taxing you, right? That's not encouraging the growth of small businesses. It's not encouraging the growth of an economy. But a business with a turnover well over millions of dollars, I think any government has a right to look to widen its tax base, in countries like that, which are earning money from citizens, right? In theory. So yeah, that would be my answer to that.
Okay, thank you, Chiti. We'll take the last round of questions, and then we are done. So we have online community as well. We'll take one question here. We'll take one online.
All right. Thank you very much, Chiti. My name is Maoko. Yeah, knowing too well that the government or governments have influence on our digital rights and these digital platforms, how do we handle cases or situations where governments disinform the public for political interest, knowing too well that they have this influence on digital platforms? Thank you.
Okay, so thanks for that. So Chiti, let me add this. There's a question online. How does reporting work? What is the legal underpinning of it? And are all states subject to its regulation? That's the question online, in addition to what our colleague asked.
Okay, thank you very much. Government disinformation of the public. Again, I think this is where the role of civil society is so crucial, right? As civil society, we have a responsibility where we have a responsibility to the people, right? Civil society and journalists as well, right? There's and I think particularly, yes, on journalists, this is even it's an ethical responsibility that they have. If a story has been published or information is being put out by the government which is patently false, the role of the media is to then check that, right? The role of the media is to serve the public with the information that it knows to be correct. And so this is why a strong media fraternity is very important. An empowered media fraternity is very important in a country. And this is where you find that when a government is heading towards, authoritarianism, etc., one of the first areas that they look to undermine, we know, is the media, right? Because if there's no credible media, there's no strong media able to check them and counter what they're saying, then they can get away with saying whatever. And so that's why it's important in countries where we still have a strong media and we still, to a large extent, have protection of our laws. The minute we see that, we say something. If you see it, say something. And then how does reporting work and what is the legal underpinning of it, and are all states subject to its regulation? Okay, so just to clarify, Reporti is not a regulator, right? It's a paradigm initiative program, and essentially what we do is we are a digital rights monitor for Africa, and so essentially we are open to anyone who sees a digital rights violation. So, for example, when the internet shutdown took place in Zambia during our last elections, a person could go on Reporti and report, my president shut down the internet from this and this date, or the internet is still shut down now. Paradigm Initiative is then able to contact lawyers in that country and work towards now the legal redress for that wrong that has taken place. We also get cases, for example, where someone is being harassed by by money lending platforms, right? Their information is being shared, or they're getting threatening calls. We are then able to also step in there. Someone's information was shared, we're able to step in there with, whether it's legal action or mediation. But I want to really specify, we're not a regulatory body. We are basically just working towards a solution for the digital rights violation that has been reported on our platform, whether this is legal, whether this is through some sort of psychiatric care, psychologist care, for example, in cases where someone is a victim of stalking or tech-facilitated GBV. But we are a monitor for digital rights violation and infringements on the region. So we essentially, penny or Fenny, we rely on you to report to us what is a violation that you have witnessed, experienced, or know of in your country. And then we assess what is the best approach to help you with that, or to rectify it.
Great. Chiti, thank you so much. On that note, yes, let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you very much, everyone. This was I really enjoyed engaging, and please let's continue the conversations.
Great. So just do us one favor. How do you pronounce your full name?
Chiti Mbizule Mutati.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
It's been great having you. And then
thank you. All the best with the rest of the program.
Thank you so much. And greetings to the PIN family.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Great. Thank you. That's a nice way to start the day. And there's a little twist to the program. The second speaker had an emergency, so we are trying to swap with Stephen so that we can close early today. So yes, so that would be nice, yes. So we spoke with him. He's on his way. So just give us a few minutes. And then, yes, we can do that. Yeah. And then there's another thing, sorry? Of course. Of course. Of course. So there's just another caveat. Yaovi, you see that we have after lunch, we have him. He also doesn't joke with his time.
Hello, Yaovi speaking.
So
I think my session is from
yes.
What is the time of my session, please?
No, your session is at 12.
Yeah, 12 UTC.
Yes, please.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I didn't even know you are online.
No, I just joined to check.
Oh,
thank
okay.
You so much.
Yes, your session is at 12. Okay. That's beautiful. Okay. So exactly 12, not 12:1. We'll start that session. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. You wanted to say something? Off the mic. Off the mic. Yes. Okay, so yesterday we said something. If you know you sat on the table that you sat yesterday, or Monday, avoid that table. Or whoever sat by you on your left or on your right. Avoid him or her. So let's use the time to do that. Yes, but you can't sit on the same table. It doesn't matter. Because you have to get that one. Okay, let's use that time too. And then how many contacts have you made so far? But you Monday, that's where you start to. Monday, yes. Okay, the same lane, please. Come to another lane. He's just hovering around the same lane. What is that? So please choose another lane. Uh, choose another lane. Okay, so honestly, since we've been, are we together? All right. So since we've been engaging, okay, today is day 3. We haven't really filled the online community. Okay. So let's hear something from them. We have some mentors and some of our colleagues online. Okay. Actually, are you available to speak, to say something? Actually, yes, exactly. He's one of our mentors, and he's also an ICANN fellow. Actually, are you able to say something? Say hi to us.
Oh, sure. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Okay, anybody here that speaks French? You speak French? Okay,
Yes, I
so
do.
actually,
You want me to speak in French?
speak some French. We have some colleagues here. Speak to
Oh,
them
okay, cool.
and let them
Bon-
interpret since they say they can speak French.
Bonjour à tous. J'espère que vous allez bien et que le programme se passe bien aussi. C'est vraiment un plaisir pour moi de vous parler ce matin et je vois que vous êtes engagés et beaucoup de choses se passent là-bas. Donc, tirez le meilleur profit de ce programme et gardez les contacts surtout. Parce que après dans l'écosystème, vous allez voir des visages que vous connaissez et c'est comme ça que vous allez évoluer ensemble. Donc, et j'espère aussi garder certains noms que je pourrai rencontrer plus tard. So I'm done.
Ok, merci beaucoup pour votre contribution. J'aimerais utiliser ce channel pour vous dire merci beaucoup. Nous sommes bien ici, tout va bien ici, le programme tout va bien. Comme tu as indiqué dans ton propos, on se garde les contacts et on s'engage, tout va très bien. In a nutshell, he said that he's very happy to engage with us and he's expecting that the program is going on well and everybody should network with each other, keep the contact so after the event we can still continue to engage. And also he said he's looking forward to keep some of the names among us. So maybe after the event he will reach out and talk to anybody. Thank you.
Yes. Wow, that's just beautiful. Okay. All right. So who else online wants to say hello to us? I think I saw the vice president. Yes, Alaji, let's hear from you. Alaji is the vice president. Yes.
All right. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is Abdurrafif Sini. As I am called Alhaji Darajat, the current GHANASIG EC Vice President and 2025 Fellows Mentor. It's been great seeing you all around in the final face-to-face training. And I've just been observing some comments on the platforms. It seems that the bond is not strong. You are not trying to get connected with each other. Reasons we can't best tell. But I tell you, some of you might be regretting after the final face-to-face training if you are not able to make enough connections with your fellows, especially those outside Ghana and even outside Accra. So I just want to encourage you guys to make sure that you keep the bond strong as part of your fellows impact project. I think this should even be an opportunity for you guys to network well, so that after the project or after the training, the impact project you are going to embark, you can have it an easy way. Because imagine if you are not relating well with others, and at the end, you are going to be paired in a group with a person to come up with a project or for a project. It somehow will be difficult. But if you already know each other well, it is going to be easy for you guys to do that. And again, I just want to congratulate one of my mentee, Derek, for being selected or nominated as one of the course rep. In 2024, I was also a course rep, and it is good to see him following my footsteps. And let me say, I am proud of him. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Aladi, for your kind words, and I'm happy about what you said. In fact, what he said is very key, that you might regret after that you were not able to make a lot of connections. You know, in the ecosystem, right, if you apply for a role has been advertised, you apply for. Sometimes the people that you've connected with, that will, you know, when you nominate somebody have to agree with that. Some people don't go through just because they haven't gotten anybody to just validate the nomination. Yeah. And some people win because they get a lot of people supporting their nomination. And then you see that it is the connections that they made during their fellowship programs. So what Alagi said is very right. So please take advantage of it. Okay. Okay, so Fanny, you have been with us since day one. Let's hear from you. And then I think virtually you are the most engaged participant. So it will be nice to hear from you. If we can see your face, that would be beautiful. Are you able to share your video?
Yes, I'm trying to put it on. Can you see me now?
The voice is very low.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, it's better.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to engage with you online. I really wanted to travel, but because of my career engagement, I was not able to. But I'm really glad to be part of this session. It is 1 p.m. here in Kenya, and I've really enjoyed so far. Yes, and I'd like to say that Ghanaians are very warm people, and we can feel the warmth even on the online platform. So yes, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. We are glad to have you. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so what's the weather in Kenya today? How's the weather like?
Since it's July, it's a cold month, so it's chilly. Yes, but we
Yeah.
don't experience winters here.
Oh, okay. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. Anyone else who is online who wants to speak to us or say something? Some are here and have joined. That's why I'm skipping you. Okay. So that being said, let's have our introduction session while we wait for Steven to join us. Okay, so Fanny, since you just spoke, do you mind introducing yourself to us? Tell us your name, what you do, where you work, what skills, or let's say if you offer some private services, let us know, and let us know your marital status.
Okay, thank you so much again. So my name, I'm Feni Awora Polo. I'm a Kenyan. I live in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm a lawyer by profession, and currently I'm doing my pupillage. I passed my bar exams in Kenya School of Law, so I'm doing a pupillage, which is a 6-month program, so that I can be admitted to the role of advocates here in Kenya. So that was one of the things I was not able to travel to Ghana because of the 6-month pupillage. Yes, so I graduated from campus like 2023, and then 2025 was in Kenya School of Law, and then now this year I'm doing my pupillage. Yes, so I'm a lawyer, I'm an advocate in training. So I don't have any other side hustle, but I'm sure once I'm admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, then that will be my main hustle. Yes. Yes, I think that is it. Any other thing I need to say?
Is there any other thing you want to tell us? Okay, so your marital status.
Oh, okay. I'm not married yet.
We want to know if you are searching or you're available.
Yeah, I'm available. I'm searching.
Okay, she's available. So oh my God. All right, thank you. Thank you, Fanny. We are so happy to connect with you. And then, yes, so don't worry, there's so much excitement here. So we are happy that you're available. Some people are very happy, so they'll reach out. Yes. All right, so any other fellow that is online that is not here? I think I see some of you here. Okay, so Jonathan, is Jonathan here? Is Jonathan here? No. All right, so Jonathan, let's hear from you. Introduce yourself. If you can share your video, that would be beautiful. Sorry. Jonathan is here. Oh, okay. All right, then let's start with Sadiq then. So your name, what you do, where you work, any service you provide.
Okay. I'm Abubakar Sadiq Adams. I currently work at Kolebu as IT. I'm also a founder of Think Cyber Solution. Okay. I said I work at Kolebu as IT. Okay. I'm Abubakar Sadiq Adams. So I work at Kolebu as IT. I'm a founder. I founded Think Cyber Solution. I do a little bit of consultancy. I'm a business IT and business IT legal consultant. I have a master's in IT and law. That's my lecturer is here. Dr. Budu. Yeah. So I'm also with IRPGH. So I'm part of their author team. So we do a lot of research and publications weekly, almost every Monday. When you buy the BNFT newspaper, you might see my article there. And so most of the time we publish on IT-related issues and other issues like that. So we also do, so currently we'll be having another program at Kempinski, will be discussing RICS Africa, the RICS Summit. Yes. So I might be on the panel discussing some cybersecurity issues. But I'm just a small boy. Yeah. So I'm also part of the ISOC standing committee currently, the current governance. Yeah. Last year I was the EC. So this year I'm part of the Women and Youth Committee. Yeah, so we are.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm not a fellow yet. Actually, the person who has been Mr. Gadasu. So he's my classmate, and he has been more like a mentor throughout. So he introduced me to almost all those associations. So even everyone is also free to join the ISOC. Everyone is also free to join IIPGH. IIPGH, you apply and you'll be approved. It's just that.
Okay. So let's continue.
Okay,
So
let me
there's
leave
a
it.
question last year. So actually reminded me. So we'll ask you: are you ready to mingle, or you are minding your business?
Oh no, no, I'm not minding my. I'm not. No, I'm not minding my business. Yes, I'm.
So you are single and you are ready to mingle.
Mingle, yes, please.
Okay, that's beautiful. So before we go to the next, Frank is online. So
Okay.
Frank, let's hear from you. Let's see you if it's possible. Frank Asefwa. Okay, so.
I don't know if you can see me because I think I still. Okay, hi. Hi, everyone. So my name is Frank Asifua. I work with the Association of African Universities. I'm the senior web developer at AAU, and I also am a project manager for a project called the African Jobs Board project. I think I've been with the AAU for a decade, yeah, and I'm very passionate about digital skills, helping people, teaching, and engaging more people to be able to get their digital literacy up. I think I've represented AAU at AFLAO meetings twice. I've had engagements with ICANN, and hopefully I can use this to propel my engagement with ICANN going forward. And I'm married, so I'm not mingling. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. He said he's married, so that's end of conversation. Next.
Good morning. Good morning, please. I'm Lillian Asifa Basabo, and I'm a student from University of Cape Coast.
What are you reading?
I'm reading law, and I'm currently in level 400.
Are you?
Oh, that's too quick. That's too quick. What did you say? I didn't even hear what she said.
I said I'm Lillian Asifaba Asabo, a law student, currently level 400 at University of Cape.
That is the end. Don't say anything again. Please don't stress her. No. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes. So there.
All right.
That is the end of the
All right.
conversation.
I am
You
Derek
can't come
Ben.
and intimidate us here.
I am Derek Ben Kofi. I'm a minister of the Amy Zion Church, and currently I'm the youth director for Ghana region. All right. My name is Derek Ben Kofi, and I'm a minister of the Amy Zion Church, and currently the youth director for Ghana region. When we talk about Ghana region, in our church, we use the episcopacy system. So Togo, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Liberia are in one episcopal district. That is Western West Africa Episcopal District. And it is divided into two regions. Ghana region that comprises of Togo, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire. So currently, I'm the leader of the youth for Togo, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire. And I hold a Master of Arts in Ministry from Trinity Theological Seminary with Master of Technology in Graphic Design from Takrady Technical University. I'm into a little bit of graphic designing. Currently a paraprofessional counselor with Ghana Psychological Council. Thank you.
So
I am single, not ready to mingle. Thank you.
you're minding, that means
I'm minding my business.
You're minding your
I'm minding my
business.
business.
Okay. All right.
If the voice is from Trinity.
Okay. So I want us to do this quickly, then we take some pictures and go for snack. And then, yes, we can get ready for Yaovi. All right. Senior.
I'm Anderson Ezwa. I'm in charge of market. Anderson Ezwa. Yeah. In charge of marketing and public relations at Ghana.com. I also work directly under Prosanina Kukweno. I'm a part-time politician, not a full-time. Yeah. Former student leader, so part-time politician. I don't do it anymore, and yeah, I'm minding my business.
You're minding your business. Okay. We will not stress you. Okay. If you're minding your business.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ezra Barbotin. I work with Lands Commission as an information technology officer. And then I'm into systems automation, system analysis, IT consultation, and then I'm also a preacher. Yeah, I think that's it.
Status.
Single, minding my business.
Hey,
thank you.
No problem. That's nice.
Yeah, so my name is Yusuf Sidik Lamin. So I have a brother here bearing the same name. I work in the IT space. So we are a consulting firm. We do tax advisory and audit. And arguably, we are the fifth largest accounting firm globally. After the Big Four, we have the Big Four. So that's where I work in IT support, system administration, automation, like he said. So I'm in a similar role. After here, I'll connect with you. Yeah, great. So aside that, I have deep passion for social impact activism. From where I come from the Upper West region. Resources are not available at that side. So I try to put people on. That's the word I'll use for now. So I'm open to consultations, not formally. So I help my colleagues, my friends in landing in jobs. Because when you go to that side, they still don't believe that you can get job through just self-awareness, putting yourself in that shape. They have that mindset that you need to meet politically exposed people, and they have, and we have a lot of unemployment issues at that side. So I have that mindset to bridge that gap. And the amazing thing is that yesterday I had a call from one of my colleagues that I'm helping for the past 3 months to land in a job. It's Access Bank, and it's been back and forth. So she called me. She called me on phone, saying that they've reached out to her after we've taken the aptitude test. I assisted her, and the message is that she has an interview today at 11, and this is another scorecard. So thanks. That's what I do. Video, yeah, video. Yeah, so we do audit. Yeah, so aside, we have KPMG, we have Deloitte, we have Pricewaterhouse, PwC, and we have which one? EY, and so on. So aside these, so they are categorized as the Big Four. So after the Big Four, fortunately, we are the Big Five. We are the Big Five. Yeah, so we are video. So the next time, Egifa wants to do an audit, we can come in.
Yes. Oh, of course. Of course. So be ready. You do the audit for us this year. Okay. All right.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is, sorry, I have a bit of a lengthy name, but I keep them because I think that gives me my identification and it's part of our culture as Ghanaians, yes. So my name is Patience Emefa Janja Oklu. Yes, the Oklu is the borrowed one added to it, yes. So I teach at the University of Ghana at the Department of Information Studies, where I look at how we use digital systems for both organizational purposes and individual purposes, and how these tools impact our lives and livelihoods. I'm also a professional librarian, so I look at information management, data management. Sorry, so as tertiary teachers, what we are supposed to do most is researching. So I like to research, and the reason why I really got involved in this is I want my research work to take me outside the scope of the classroom, what we call sending the gown to the to town to make a lot more social impact. So I met the group at last year's Drift conference here in Ghana. So I got in touch with them and I decided to apply for this year's fellowship. So that's why I'm here. I'm married, yes, but the mingling I'm understanding, we can always be friends. Thank you. Not the a friendship that will lead to other things, yes, but
Yeah,
yes.
It's getting
So
interesting.
I intentionally said that because sometimes when people hear and then hear what you do, is like as if you are in a very special bubble that nobody must come close to you. No, I may not be very, very social, but I'm social. Thank you.
Online is getting interesting.
All right.
Yes. So Alaji says, hey, so many guys minding their business. I hope they won't later be like my brother. I won't mention that brother. So, and that brother is online, so he read it. All right.
All right. So good morning. My name is Rachel Akule. I used to be a banker 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, I transitioned to the public sector. I'm currently with the Corporate Affairs of National Home Ownership Fund. Yes, and I'm married. I have 4 girls. Yes. And I got to know GHANASIG through LinkedIn. I have been interested in tech. I mean, I did information studies as well in, what's the name? Legon. So I've been interested in tech right from day one, but banking took it away a little. But I did some IT courses as well along the way. So when I saw it, I was so interested. I applied for it. Unfortunately, I was picked. So I am so happy to be here. I mean, the exposure, the knowledge, the education. And I was just telling Raymond today that my highlight yesterday was a project. It was so interesting to me. So thank you so much. It's nice meeting all of you. And I hope that we would make an impact in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christabel Seram Anka, and I'm an IT manager with Whole Teaching Hospital. And I'm currently leading the training and research and end user support sub-BMC of the Whole Teaching Hospital. And aside that, I'm also a certified cloud practitioner. So I help organizations transition into the cloud. And also, I'm a tech lady, so I do a bit of everything. I do programming, I code a lot. And I'm happy to be here. I was introduced by Gosri, that was last year. I applied and unfortunately, I was not picked. So this year, I think I saw the link somewhere again and I gave it a try. So I'm happy to be here. I'm the quiet type. I'm very shy, and I only step out of my shells when I'm comfortable around people. So from the start, I wasn't feeling the connection, but as the days go by, I'm getting to connect to a lot of people. And one is the project, because I really like those kind of initiatives. Yeah. So yesterday it was something that I really loved. Yeah, I was happy that such a thing came up, because it actually makes me explore more and to also find solutions to other problems as well. So this is just me, and I'm single, but I'm fully minding my business.
Eish. Hey, we are in trouble. Hey. I don't know. No, so far, nobody here is available. Oh.
Please, so nobody's available. We are looking for a wife for our last baby. So please make yourself available. Awoya, are you there?
Wait, did you say? Okay.
I'm actually available. Yeah, I'm okay. Open to
Okay, so at least we got one available person. Yeah. Yes, it's open. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Olabimpe Adeloro. I'm a cybersecurity and data protection specialist. I'm an author, a published author. I'm an educator. I'm a founder and a co-founder. I have my own academy where we teach people transitioning into cybersecurity or upscaling. So, and I also assist with another academy that does the same thing. And I'm actively involved in that academy. I got to know about GHANASIG through a colleague of mine. I mean, he's more than a colleague. He's been a brother. He's family already. We met online, and that's the power of the internet. We met online, and we just took it off from there, and we are. So it's been his culture. Whenever he sees any opportunity, he will share with me, and this was one of them. So I'm happy that I've been longing to come to Ghana. I mean, somehow in my career, I just developed this passion for Ghanaians, online, I will call them, because I'm very active online. I do X, a little bit of X, but very active on LinkedIn, if you know me. so on X, I just have this connection with Ghanaians, and I was longing to come to Ghana. I really, really wanted it. I'm a Cisco approved instructor, a CompTIA certified instructor. So at some point, Cisco was to organize a conference in Ghana, and I was like, okay, that would be an opportunity for me. So it was to hold in May, June, and it didn't hold, so it was so disappointing. So when this one came, so it was as if I already prepared for it. And here I am, and like my other sister said, the highlight for me has been the project. Yes, because it's an opportunity to push further what I've been doing and some of the things I'd intended to do. I've been looking for opportunity to, okay. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Ada. So your status. It's not for you.
Okay.
It's
Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, I thought it's for me. So I've been meaning to penetrate into Nigerian school because at some point in my career I wasn't operating locally. So at some point, friends would be like, "Okay, Nigeria raised you. Why are you not giving back to the community?" So I started doing that, and I wanted to penetrate into the school. So the projects will really, really help me because knowing that outside the shore of Nigeria, I got a training and this is what I have back from the training will make it easier. Of course, the education sector back home had wanted me and they've been looking at, okay, how can I partner with them? How can we do something together? So, and that's why I'm still in one of the projects, the club thing. I'm still in that. I'm going away with that. So I'm so interested. I want to see how far it will go. And the one my group is doing too, we are going to, I'm going to work very much on that. So it's been very nice, very good. I must commend you guys. Thank you very much because I was, as much as I was very optimistic coming down here, I was also a little bit skeptical because, where you've never been to. And I know from experience, kind of from a distance, Nigerian culture and that of the Ghanaians. Back home we say Ghanaians are British, Nigerians are American. So we have this gra-gra in us. And you guys are more reserved. So I've been like, okay, we'll be able to work together. But so far, it's been very, very good. I appreciate the accommodation. I appreciate your welcoming spirit. You've treated me like one of your own. And for me, even though I go back home, I know my heart will remain here.
Oh. Aww. So that's nice. We are happy to have you. So there are 2 questions for you online.
Okay.
Did you get time or chance to try Ghana Jollof? No, forget about the first one.
Okay, let me say not yet.
Okay,
So because even the first one I tried was disapproved.
Was the wrong one.
Was disapproved by Ghanaians. So I would say I've not tried it, but I will.
What
the
about
guys are
wache?
taking me. I went, oh yeah, I love that.
Okay.
That's really, it's absolutely, I tried it yesterday and it was fantastic.
All right.
Okay, maybe the recipe. Yeah,
Okay.
if I get hold of the recipe, it will be a good thing to try back home.
All right. Okay, so you mentioned something about the internet club, right? Okay, so we have that as part of the activities that we do, so we could collaborate.
Oh, that would be nice.
And then we could have one in Nigeria as well.
Oh,
So we can have conversation on that.
Oh, sure.
So actually, we can have a similar one in Benin as well. Actually, it's from Benin.
Oh, good.
Okay, so that we collaborate and do it together. Because we
very
already
well.
have the foundation for it.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That would be nice. I'm currently in touch with the Commissioner of Education.
Sure.
Because similar to what happens here,
Yeah.
most especially if you are penetrating into public schools, so you need to go through, the government. So at the moment, we are trying to collaborate with them and see how we take it to the national level. So it will be a great thing.
Sure.
Yeah. If I can go, maybe like an offer letter or something, that would be nice.
We can do that.
Amazing. Thank you.
So Olabimpe, we are happy to have you.
It's my big pleasure. And maybe I should say, the guys are taking me out on Saturday. If anybody is willing to come along, that would be great.
Hey.
Come on, Naija.
Hey. Goes
I'm happily married.
Hey.
It's been 21 years,
so maybe actually, do you have anything to say about the outing? Do you have any? Okay, so allergic to is online. Any tip for them?
Karen, please come again, you said?
Okay, so some few guys are planning to take Olabimpe out on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying, do you have anything to share, any tip to share on going out? Sorry? I think that one we can arrange it. So Alaji, anything to say?
Well, I think it will be good and a nice experience for her to take a tour or a walk around Accra, especially to see some of our monument sites or maybe even our parliament.
No, Alaji, I meant I mean the last day, right? What do you have to
The
share?
last
You know, the last day, what you guys did.
In fact, for the last day, Doctor, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe my feelings or my excitement on the last day. It was, I don't know if any cohort will be able to do what we did. Seriously, it was a great experience. Imagine after the whole program, you go in groups, get a place to sit, enjoy yourself, dance, do all, let's say in quotes, all the crazy things you want to do. It was a nice experience and a memorable one, which for me will even take time before I get it off my head. So I think it will be nice for them to also look at how they can, on the last day, to get well, especially travel those in quotes who are trying to be reserved type. At least I remember on the last day, even those who were not active or showing, all of them finally joined the convoy to Atomic Junction for, let me say, the after party of GHANASIG 2024. So it will be a nice experience if they are able to come out with one, and I think they will love it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the info.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay, so nothing to add. So Christian.
Okay, good morning once again. I'm Chris German. I am a system analyst and a nuclear power advocate as well. Yeah.
Am I safe? Am I safe?
Please, nuclear is for peace. Okay. Nuclear does a lot of things. We look at only 1% of the aspect of nuclear, and then we misjudge nuclear. Nuclear is not for bomb. When almost all of us have been to the hospital before for the past 2-3 years, and the CCT scan we do, we use what? It's nuclear, right? Uranium and all those things. And it's being managed by our people. When you go to Legon, UGMC here, that is who manage it, GAEC. But now Ghana want to go nuclear. And why nuclear? Permits me to do some small marketing here. Now Ghana, we are now relying on hydro and then thermal. And now look at the Iran and the Israel war. Fuel prices are becoming a burden on us, gas and other things. And our hydro right now don't even have enough dams to tap the hydro. And nuclear is clean. Nuclear is environmental friendly. Nuclear is very cheap as compared to other aspects of power generation. Someone was worried about solar. Those who have solar panels in their house, for how long can a battery last? When the battery expired, it becomes waste. You have to look for a place to dispose of the battery. But nuclear, when you use the uranium, the fuel, a small quantity, you can generate power to at least able to solve our doomsday issues. So I want all of us to help to be advocate for nuclear power energy. Ghana want to go nuclear. So please, can you support wherever you go? At least this one line you have heard from me. Try to sell. Nuclear is not for, please, I will come in here. Nuclear is not for just bomb, 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 bomb as well. But my background is I'm a system analyst as well. And to me, I'm very versatile. We are looking for procurement officer, I'm there. Administrator, I'm there. Even when you come to my church, I'm a Catholic and I'm a parish secretary as well. I don't joke with my church as well. So at least before you leave, it's unfortunate I won't be around. Like I will take you to my church before you leave, but it's unfortunate I won't be around. So my brother, the question, if you want to ask the question, yeah. Okay. Ghana, no, please. You know, we used to have a high uranium, something small for research, okay? But there was a law during the NPP regime from the International Atomic Energy Agency and the other partners that they want to make sure we reduce, because it's for only research. It's not for generation of power, it's for only research. And because of what's happening in Iran right now, there's a new law that we should make sure all the high enriched uranium, we should now bring it down to low. At least if the low can if it develop bomb, we can use it for bomb. But with the high, is very, very dangerous, you see it. So that was about 6 or 7 years ago during Akufo this era. They came to, it happened in Nigeria too as well at the same time. They came to reduce it from high uranium to low uranium. And there are a lot of politics all around that, what they call it, the government or the Atomic Energy Commission have sold our nuclear this thing to China. Please, it wasn't sold. It's for peace. Because if bad people get access to that, they can use to develop bombs. And they can be very, very dangerous to all of us. Okay, so it's there for research. But very, very soon, Ghana will go nuclear. Very, very soon, we'll go nuclear.
Okay, so
Thank
that's
you.
nice. So what I want us to do, because of that time, let's quickly go for snack. Use the opportunity to take some pictures. And then so maybe the last one, then when we come back. Because your visa at 12. We cannot, we don't joke with this time, yeah.
Okay, my name is Desi, and I'm a service desk engineer. And so I'm skilled in monitoring and troubleshooting network performance issues. And so the next time you travel and then you're probably having issues with roaming, it's very possible, or the possibility that your traffic is passing through us is very high. And also I'm a cybersecurity awareness specialist. I'm with an academy. I also work with Olabimpe here and a number of people here. I'm sure they might get to introduce themselves and then you affiliate yourselves with them. Okay.
We are 4 of us. So, the status. Yes.
We have 2. One is Mobile Server Safety Nexus, which is Nigerian based. And the Ghana version is Makatop IT Securities.
Makatop IT Securities. Makatop.
Okay.
They can see any of us. My DM.
We do this on cohort basis. And so, yeah. And so when you follow us on LinkedIn. Right.
Okay.
But you can just see us and then.
Let's partner and do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, we can partner. And when we do that, so if it is focused on your initiative, then that shows you get us, because it's not cost effective for us to be picking one person. So we have a group that make up a class at a time. So if we have it up to a class, then we can go. Even if we have an existing academy, cohorts, then we can still work with that.
something out. All right, so please, did you do your smile for pic today? Okay, so if you want to do, you can do, or let's go for snack and come, and then so that we can do the rest of the intro. Okay, we just want to make good use of the time. All right, so our online community, we are taking a break. We'll be back. Thanks for joining.
They can also take their coffee.